I'm Jeremy Wade. Well, it's been a long and incredible River Monsters journey. It's with very mixed feelings that I've decided to end my River Monsters journey.
For nearly a decade, Jeremy Wade immersed himself in the mysterious world of freshwater monsters, capturing viewers' imaginations with every catch. But what happens when the real threat is not the creatures he hunted, but the rivers themselves falling apart? What forced a man known for bravery and persistence to walk away from his most iconic adventure, even when the mysteries were far from solved? Behind the thrilling encounters and dramatic hunts lurks a painful truth few saw coming, a crisis so severe it reshaped his entire mission. The real reason: River Monsters ended. Jeremy Wade's departure from River Monsters surprised many fans who believed the show simply ran its course. The official line was that Wade had exhausted the list of mysterious creatures to pursue, and the network framed the ending as a natural conclusion to a successful run. But the truth runs deeper and darker than that simple explanation. Wade himself has admitted that the reason he stopped had nothing to do with a lack of monsters. Instead, it was a far more disturbing reality slowly unfolding beneath the surface of the rivers he explored. For years, as the show gained global attention, Wade witnessed a steady unraveling of the ecosystems that nurtured these incredible creatures. The catches became fewer, the rivers less vibrant, and the stories he once chased more steeped in loss. What he found in the later seasons was something no fishing rod or camera crew could capture, a disappearance that signaled the collapse of entire habitats. This creeping crisis challenged everything Wade thought he was documenting. Despite the growing evidence, the show's adventurous spirit demanded excitement and discovery rather than bleak environmental truths. Wade struggled with this conflict internally, knowing that presenting vibrant encounters for entertainment masked a harsher reality. The audiences wanted thrilling hunts, mysteries solved, and monsters uncovered. But the true story was one of extinction and devastation. He began questioning the honesty inherent in the show's premise. It wasn't just about what was not being caught anymore, but about what was vanishing from the rivers altogether. The monsters Wade hunted were shrinking in number, their habitats eroding from pollution, climate change, illegal mining, and overfishing. These were threats far greater than the monsters themselves. For Wade, the term "running out of monsters" eventually came to mean running out of healthy rivers where life could still thrive. Adding to the burden, Wade realized the show's very popularity was unwittingly drawing more attention to endangered species, sometimes intensifying the risks they faced. Increased tourism, poaching, and demand for exotic fish all seemed to rise after episodes aired, making the creatures not just rare but targets. Wade found himself caught between raising awareness and potentially creating negative impacts, a tension that only deepened his ethical doubts. In the final seasons, these realities weighed heavily on Wade. The exhaustion visible in his eyes spoke of more than just physical strain. It was an emotional reckoning with a mission that no longer felt truthful. He knew that the river monsters he'd spent his life chasing had become the victims of a larger monster: humanity's impact on the environment. What began as thrilling investigations transformed into mournful documentation of a natural world slipping away. Ultimately, Wade concluded that continuing the show under the existing format meant perpetuating a lie. He felt compelled to tell a different story, one that confronted environmental devastation head-on. However, the network and format resisted such a shift, preferring to preserve the fantasy of adventure and discovery over uncomfortable truths. Facing this impasse, Wade made the difficult decision to end the show on his terms rather than compromise his integrity. This decision was not made lightly, nor was it an impulsive reaction. It represented the culmination of decades of first-hand experience, witnessing not just river monsters, but the decline of the very ecosystems that supported them. Wade's exit from River Monsters was a quiet but profound statement about the state of our rivers and the limits of entertainment when it clashes with reality. The signs Wade saw were impossible to ignore, yet they were only part of a much larger story. Jeremy Wade's unsung obsession. Jeremy Wade's connection to the world's rivers runs deeper than most realize, rooted in a lifelong obsession that predates his television fame by decades. Born in 1956 in Suffolk, England, Wade was captivated not by commonplace fish, but by the mysterious, often terrifying creatures lurking beneath murky waters. While studying zoology at Bristol University, he pursued a question dismissed by most scientists. Could freshwater fish be responsible for attacks on humans? At a time when marine predators like sharks dominated public attention, Wade's belief in the danger and intrigue of freshwater species set him on a path few dared to follow. In his 20s, armed with little more than curiosity and determination, he traveled to remote rivers across the globe. His expeditions took him to India to investigate goonch catfish, dragging swimmers underwater, to the Amazon for the colossal arapaima, and
massive female arapaima, about 150 pounds.
To the Congo in search of the fierce Goliath tigerfish. None of this was scripted or funded by any network. Wade risked his safety and spent his own resources living among local communities, learning their languages and gaining their trust. His life was punctuated by hardships, surviving malaria multiple times, enduring a plane crash deep in the rainforest, breaking his back in a remote village with no nearby medical aid, and facing robbery and threats in various countries. Yet none of these deterred him from seeking the truth behind river monsters. The scientific method formed the basis of Wade's research, yet he conducted it through his personal experiences. The researcher demonstrated his expertise through his understanding of fish behavior, which he acquired from actual fieldwork experience over many years. River Monsters achieved its global success through authentic storytelling, which formed its core foundation. The Animal Planet Network discovered Wade through his independent research work, which he conducted for several years before they contacted him. At the time of his 2008 television series adaptation deal, he possessed 5 years of experience and material and knowledge. The show introduced Jeremy Wade as a real person, whereas it created an entirely new adventurous character. Wade distinguished himself through his dedication to discovering actual facts rather than creating dramatic effects. Wade based his stories on scientific research and his understanding of nature's complex systems, which differed from other nature shows that used dramatization for their audience appeal. He pursued monster research through 2 methods, which involved investigating their habitats and understanding their significance to the communities which they affected. River Monsters achieved audience success because the show presented a detailed approach to mysterious events, which combined elements of scientific explanation with audience mystery. Wade developed his understanding of environmental risk through his personal experiences. His repeated visits to the same rivers across many years enabled him to detect environmental transformations which short-term visitors would miss. His deep understanding of the river system developed into his main worry about how the river ecosystem would be affected by the ethical boundaries of the show's production methods. The success of River Monsters was undeniable, but that very success sowed seeds of conflict that challenged the core of what Wade had dedicated his life to. The rise and impact of River Monsters. When River Monsters premiered in April 2009, it quickly surpassed expectations, becoming Animal Planet's most-watched show within weeks. Audiences were captivated by Jeremy Wade's unique blend of scientific rigor and fearless adventuring, a combination that set the show apart from other nature programs. The format was fresh, a detective story unfolding in wild rivers, with Wade tracking down predators behind mysterious attacks and disappearances. Unlike flashy productions focused on spectacle alone, River Monsters presented genuine investigation. Wade interviewed witnesses, examined scant evidence, and used both biology and angling expertise to identify and catch elusive fish.
Still water here, and this thing was living right on the edge of that. Really living up to its reputation.
This approach transformed freshwater species into fascinating subjects, revealing giants like the Goliath tigerfish and electric eels as captivating as the ocean's greatest predators. The appeal crossed borders, reaching viewers in over 220 countries and territories, with some episodes drawing nearly 1.5 million viewers in the United States alone. River monsters sparked a newfound global interest in freshwater ecosystems, shining a spotlight on an environment often overlooked by mainstream media. This attention brought prestige and visibility not only to Wade, but also to the creatures and habitats he featured. For many, Wade became synonymous with adventure and exploration, his earnestness and expertise inspiring a generation to pursue marine biology and conservation. The show's success was more than numbers. It created a cultural impact, pushing freshwater fish into the public imagination as mysterious, powerful, and worthy of respect. The series achieved success through its expansion, but Wade started to show different behavioral patterns from his previous behavior. The audience could see his excitement in earlier seasons, but by season 5, he reached a point where sharp observers could detect his hidden worries. Wade's commentary about his traveling experiences showed his growing anxiety about how environmental changes affected him while his journeys to new places. His statements about endangered fish and polluted rivers showed that he started to realize more about the hidden destruction in these areas. The show required its formula to deliver exciting content, which would reach a conclusion, but Wade faced actual life situations that created more complex problems. The narrative structure faced complications from population decline reports, industrial pollution threats, and the gradual disappearance of various species. Wade had to maintain a difficult accomplishment, which required him to present entertaining content while providing actual information throughout the entire show. The River Monsters show created a cultural phenomenon which produced unexpected effects. The program brought attention to rare species, which resulted in increased danger for those species because trophy hunters and aquarium traders began to target them. Wade developed increasing internal conflict about the show, which produced admiration for its subjects, while simultaneously creating danger for them. The show River Monsters achieved its mission through its multiple defects and contradictory elements. It introduced freshwater predators to the public, which attracted scientific interest from millions who discovered the hidden events that occurred in underground river ecosystems. The legacy required Wade to maintain his environmental responsibilities until he reached a point where the weight became too difficult to manage because of environmental conditions that continued to worsen. The pattern of fading ecosystems, personal passion, and public fascination now leads us closer to the moment that shaped Wade's final decision, to confront a truth too big for entertainment to contain. Signs of an ecosystem in decline. As River Monsters captivated audiences worldwide, Jeremy Wade began noticing troubling signs beneath the surface of the rivers he returned to time and again. What once were vibrant ecosystems teeming with life were gradually showing scars: polluted waters, dwindling fish populations, and disrupted habitats. Wade wasn't just filming new encounters, he was witnessing a silent crisis unfolding over decades, often hidden behind the show's adventurous veneer. In places like the Amazon, rivers that Wade fished in the 1990s were now choked by illegal gold mining operations. The mercury used in these operations seeped into the water, poisoning fish and poisoning entire food chains. Wade arrived expecting to film thriving populations of giant fish like the arapaima, but found locals reporting that these creatures had vanished or become so rare they were nearly impossible to catch. These were not isolated incidents. Similar declines appeared worldwide. In Southeast Asia, the Mekong giant catfish, one of the largest freshwater fish on Earth, was disappearing fast. Wade, who had tagged many specimens years earlier, found himself struggling to locate even one. Hydroelectric dams blocked migration routes, and overfishing pushed populations to the brink. The rivers themselves were changing, polluted and altered by human activities.
This is the Ganges water. What does this mean? It means fecal coliform bacteria, basically the water here of human waste.
Making survival increasingly difficult for these ancient creatures. Meanwhile, the iconic goonch catfish that had made Wade famous in earlier seasons were becoming scarce in the rivers of India. Their decline wasn't due to overfishing alone, but stemmed largely from changes in the river's chemistry caused by sewage, industrial waste, and agricultural runoff. The delicate balance of the ecosystem was unraveling from the bottom up, leading to collapsing food chains and unstable habitats. The African continent showed Wade the same river patterns which he had studied because their water sources stopped functioning for extended durations. Climate change was changing rainfall patterns, which created permanent drought conditions that replaced seasonal weather changes. The fish species which had existed for thousands of years now faced extinction within the next few decades. The fishermen from the area told stories which showed a chilling truth because they described how creatures which used to swim in the waters their ancestors had fished disappeared from existence. The observations provided more than background information because they functioned as warnings. Wade discovered that the creatures he hunted in his quest for knowledge about them existed as indicators which showed the current status of fragile ecosystems that suffered from severe decline. The rivers which contained these creatures existed in a state of sickness because their waters transformed an exploration program into an account which documented environmental destruction. Wade had to confront an unsettling reality because river monsters would create a legacy which extended beyond its spectacular fish catches and exciting hunting scenes to show how wild rivers and their animal populations slowly vanished from the earth. This understanding initiated Wade's personal and ethical conflict because he needed to find a way to present the reality of the situation through the limitations of the television program. The weight of these observations intensified Wade's inner conflict, pushing him toward deeper ethical questions about his role and the show's message. The ethical dilemma intensifies. By season 8, Jeremy Wade's internal struggle had reached a critical point. The River Monsters format required exciting episodes with dramatic hunts and revelations, but Wade knew this was increasingly at odds with the grim realities his research revealed. While viewers expected thrilling encounters, Wade faced the truth that many featured species were on the brink of collapse or disappearing altogether. This contradiction led to a profound ethical dilemma. Wade realized he was telling a story that was only half true, presenting rivers as vibrant and monsters as plentiful, when behind the scenes the ecosystems were crumbling and populations crashing. His role shifted from fearless explorer to reluctant witness of an environmental tragedy that the show's structure wasn't designed to confront. Compounding this, Wade noticed that the show's very success had unintended consequences. Episodes spotlighting certain species sparked spikes in interest from aquarium dealers, sport fishermen, and trophy hunters. Locations that once saw occasional visitors were suddenly overwhelmed by tourism, which local ecosystems were ill-equipped to handle. The increased pressure sometimes exacerbated the vulnerabilities Wade hoped to highlight. For Wade, this irony was painful. A program intended to inspire respect and conservation was inadvertently putting the creatures at greater risk. After episodes featuring particularly rare or endangered species, reports would emerge of heightened poaching or overfishing, making him question the impact of his work more deeply. Moreover, Wade grappled with honesty toward his audience. Each episode promised discovery and respect for the monsters he caught, but behind the scenes, many of these species were disappearing faster than most viewers could imagine. He felt increasingly dishonest, presenting exhilarating hunts when his private knowledge told a story of loss and decline. Conversations Wade had off-camera with local fishermen revealed staggering drops, sometimes up to 90%, in fish catches over the last decade. He saw rivers choked with plastic waste and heard from scientists who warned many species might be functionally extinct within 20 years. Yet these truths could not be fully conveyed within the show's entertainment-driven format. This pressure reached a peak when a later episode unveiled a stark symbol of what was at stake, a moment that would change everything for Wade and the future of the show. The breaking point in Mongolia. In the final season of River Monsters, Jeremy Wade faced a reality that no adventure could disguise. While filming an episode in Mongolia about the giant taimen, a species he had been familiar with for decades, Wade encountered something haunting. The rivers looked pristine, the landscape untouched, but the magnificent fish he once knew had all but disappeared. This contrast between appearance and truth struck him deeply. Wade recalled how years earlier, these rivers had teemed with taimen, giant salmon that could reach 6 feet in length. He confidently expected a challenging but fruitful hunt to document these prehistoric fish again. Instead, local guides and indigenous fishermen told a grim story. The taimen hadn't been seen for over a year in places where they had been reliably caught for generations. The population was not just reduced, it was nearly extinct. For 3 weeks, Wade and his crew scoured remote tributaries, hiking for days into the wilderness, trying to find even one specimen. Their search yielded a single fish, underweight, lethargic, and clearly struggling to survive in a habitat that seemed unchanged. Wade examined the fish carefully, knowing that this encounter was an obituary of sorts for the population. What he caught on camera was not just a catch, but a symbol of ecological collapse. The weight of this discovery pressed on Wade in an unprecedented way. While the show had showcased thrilling adventures and dramatic encounters, this moment laid bare the irreversible damage unfolding quietly in the world's rivers. Wade realized he could no longer present these stories as simple hunts or mysteries solved. The urgency and tragedy demanded more than fleeting mentions or cautious allusions. Wade displayed his commitment during the flight home from Mongolia. He told producers he needed to use the platform he had been given to tell the full truth about what was happening to these ecosystems. The environmental crises, which he had studied through 3 decades of work, needed to become his entire episode dedication for his show. His commitment to transparent information faced obstacles from the network. The network recognized environmental communication to be essential, yet maintained that River Monsters existed as an adventure show which delivered entertainment through its thrilling content. The team suggested that serious subjects should be handled through separate projects, while River Monsters should remain a thrilling monster hunting show. Wade faced a situation where he had to choose between telling the truth and fulfilling the requirements of television production. Wade became less satisfied with the show because he understood that it prioritized entertaining viewers instead of presenting actual important matters. He believed that his audience received false information because he presented animals as symbols of life when their existence depended on a fragile situation. The cheerful stories which should appear on screen conflicted with his complete understanding of toxic water, destroyed ecosystems, and extinct animal species. Wade ended River Monsters after he faced an ethical dilemma, which made it impossible for him to continue his work because he could no longer share authentic details about the program. The decision emerged from his need to act according to his principles, which required him to restore reality to people who believed in a false story about a disastrous ecological situation. The period between these 2 events established his career's first phase, which transitioned toward a more authentic, honest professional path. The struggle between Wade's vision and network priorities exposed tensions that are common in environmental storytelling, where hard truths often collide with audience expectations. The network's resistance and Wade's choice. Behind the scenes, Wade's desire to tell the full story of environmental collapse met with firm resistance from Animal Planet. The network recognized that conservation was an important issue, but made it clear that River Monsters was an entertainment program, not a documentary on pollution or climate change. They worried that heavy emphasis on environmental crises would alienate viewers looking for thrilling, escapist adventure. Wade understood the network's perspective. Viewers tuned in for excitement, for the thrill of the hunt, and the drama of catching impressive creatures. Introducing bleak realities risked shifting the show's tone from adventure to warning, potentially reducing its broad appeal. However, Wade felt that continuing to omit the truth was a betrayal of his responsibility and the creatures he had spent his life studying. He proposed reformatting the show's final season to revisit previously featured locations with an honest portrayal of how they had changed over time. Rather than glossing over decline, Wade wanted to confront the reality of habitat loss, pollution, and extinction crises head-on. This approach would use the show's platform to educate viewers and foster genuine awareness and, perhaps, action. The network pushed back, concerned such a direction would be too negative, too political, and too likely to lose its core audience. Negotiations and compromises were attempted, but Wade reached a limit. He could no longer reconcile continuing a format that masked the ecological collapse unfolding in the rivers he knew so well. Wade made the decision to terminate River Monsters after its 9th season because the show became impossible for him to continue due to its dishonest content, which had started to increase. He had reached the point where he could no longer present rivers as thriving ecosystems because he knew that most rivers had reached the point of ecological collapse. Through his decision to terminate the show, Wade chose to reject the development of superficial relationships with others. The network presented Wade's mission as complete when he solved all major mysteries and reached his conclusion at a high point of achievement. Wade entered into a contract with his work commitments, which forced him to accept this public statement that he reached his limit of monster content through interviews. He understood that many stories existed and various mysteries needed discovery, and researchers required river investigation work which had not yet been completed. Wade could no longer sustain the act of maintaining his illusion about how the world operated in reality. The show faced termination because the ecological disaster had reached a point where its current structure could not be maintained. This decision marked a rare instance where personal ethics outweighed the lure of fame, success, and financial security. Wade's selection demonstrates how environmental media struggles to balance entertaining viewers with showing the complete facts, because viewers need to be interested, but this leads to missing some information. His show demonstrates how truth can be found only when you stand outside popular storytelling methods which people use in their everyday lives. With his departure sealed, Wade's journey was far from over as he sought new ways to amplify the message his years on River Monsters had only begun to reveal. Life after River Monsters and the legacy left behind. After ending River Monsters in 2017, Jeremy Wade did not step away from the world of aquatic exploration. He redirected his focus toward confronting the environmental truths he had long witnessed, but rarely fully expressed on air. Wade began hosting shows like Mighty Rivers, Dark Waters, and Mysteries of the Deep, where his approach shifted from pure adventure to a more direct engagement with conservation issues and human impacts on freshwater ecosystems. These programs embraced stark realities, investigating pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change with unfiltered honesty. Mighty Rivers, which premiered in 2018, embodied the vision Wade had wished River Monsters could realize. A documentary where major rivers like the Amazon, Yangtze, and Mississippi were examined not just for their wildlife, but for the environmental crises threatening them. Wade approached these stories with the same passion and expertise, but infused them with a frankness about ecological collapse. Despite Wade's compelling narration and storytelling, these new programs did not achieve the staggering popularity of River Monsters, highlighting a troubling truth about audience preferences. The challenge Wade faced was that most viewers prefer to be entertained, not confronted with existential threats. People wanted thrilling adventures and spectacular catches, not accounts of polluted waters and dying fish. River monsters had built a fantasy world that comforted as much as it fascinated. And when that world vanished, many mourned the loss rather than facing the implications. Wade has candidly spoken about his frustration with this dynamic, admitting the show missed an opportunity to leverage its immense audience to catalyze greater awareness and action. Despite this bittersweet reality, Wade takes pride in what River Monsters accomplished. The show brought freshwater ecosystems, long ignored, into mainstream conversation, inspiring countless young people to study marine biology and conservation. It demonstrated that fish could be as captivating as any charismatic mammal or reptile, filling a unique niche in science communication. Conservation organizations and scientific papers regularly cite river monsters as a catalyst for increased public interest in freshwater species. Wade's legacy also includes tangible conservation impacts. Several endangered species featured on the show have received greater protections and funding, aided by the public attention fostered through his work. These real successes validate the importance of his efforts and the value of authentic storytelling rooted in respect for nature. Still, Wade is painfully aware of what could have been done differently. The artist presents River Monsters as a beautiful failure because the show achieved dramatic success, but failed to give viewers adequate environmental education about future challenges. Most rivers featured on the program today have become even worse than their current state, while the species that Wade caught and documented now face greater extinction danger than ever before. The combined effects of climate change and habitat destruction and overfishing and pollution have created an urgent situation which requires immediate action to protect these ecosystems. Wade reflects on his 2021 memoir, which he used to present the optimistic depiction of rivers in River Monsters as the lie we told, because he wanted to show the truth. He describes how he returned to a once vibrant Amazon tributary in 2019, where lifeless water now exists because illegal mining activities dumped mercury into the river system. The episode he filmed years before had shown a flourishing habitat and abundant fish, but reality had caught up with him in an unnoticeable yet deadly manner. Wade experienced deep emotional responses to these moments, which led him to commit himself to tell the truth from that point onward. Wade, who now resides in his late 60s, has moved beyond his previous identity as both an angler and television star. He identifies himself as a witness, who describes his role as a witness who observed key events to record the disappearing realm of freshwater giants. He maintains that people who comprehend the true dangers will discover the motivation needed to create change, even though he feels regret about his previous failures to disclose information. He continues his mission work because he feels urgent needs combined with his wish to provide all details about his mission work. Jeremy Wade's story shows us that sometimes the greatest battles are not against creatures in the wild, but against the truths we resist facing. River Monsters uncovered more than just fish. It revealed fragile ecosystems on the brink. If we want to protect these rivers and their inhabitants, we must stop turning away. Thanks for watching. If you found this eye-opening, please like and subscribe for more insightful stories.